Hello, YouTube, and warm welcome. If you're a returning guest, it's me again. And if you're new here, my name is Carla, your disabilities influencer and educator. And the goal of this channel is to normalize individuals with disabilities living life. And one of the first ways to do that is to make that association between an individual with a disability and life, making that connection. All right. Have you ever seen a person in a wheelchair and was curious, amazed, concerned, or just in admiration? Well, one of the most common questions you'll get is, why are you in the wheelchair? And that brings me to the topic of today's video: ways to go about getting to know someone with a physical disability instead of asking that question, as why are you in the wheelchair? So stay tuned. I'm gonna give you some tips on how to get to know someone with a physical disability and go into a little bit more detail about some of their personal information. Okay, so before I go into some of those tips, I just want to talk a little bit about why that question is awkward or problematic. There are a few reasons why. Okay, number one, it is dehumanizing. And let me give you an example. It can be considered dehumanizing because it's calling attention to not to the person with the disability, not referring to them as a person at all. It's mainly just only asking about the wheelchair or mobility aid. Let me go into a little bit more detail on why it could be considered dehumanizing. That question is dehumanizing because it's kind of calling attention to the wheelchair and not the person. You're not really asking about the person or what's going on. You're just focusing on why you're in the wheelchair or using a mobility aid. Reason number two as to why you're in a wheelchair is problematic or concerning. It's because it also calls attention to a person's weakness or what can be considered a point of themselves that they deem as not the strength of them. Does that make sense? It's like most people are going about their day just trying to run errands or just be out and about and not really wanting to be different. And there's definitely a differentiation. And I guess if someone is dressed from head to toe in rainbow, then maybe they may want attention. But otherwise, if you do want attention, it's really not for your differentness. In particular, your physical difference. So, okay. Reason number three as to why that question is problematic is because the person asking that question may not be really trained to deal with either someone else's trauma or a potentially mentally triggering situation. Let me give you an example. Let's say person A is asking person B why they're in the wheelchair. Then that person may have undergone a traumatic experience to be in the wheelchair. So hypothetically, if that story is provided to person A, what can that person say to make the conversation not as awkward? It typically goes, you're in the wheelchair because of, let's say, a traumatic event, and the person just says, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And it's like, sometimes that's the end of the conversation, and it's almost like, you're left as the person with the disability disclosing that information. You're like, is that it? is that you're just sorry. It's like, oh, you're sharing something very personal with yourself about yourself, and you may not have even been looking for sympathy or anything, but it's like, well, what are you going to do with that information? What can you do with that information? And I'm going to keep bringing up, if you're not trained, if you're not a psychologist or psychiatrist or social worker, or someone that can deal with trauma, it's like, what do you do? So that is one huge wormhole that one or two people can end up going down and being really awkward. And again, the point of this channel is to avoid those situations. So, last reason as to why that question is problematic is because the person posed that question may not know. There are a clinically significant number of individuals walking around right now in this country, really all over the world, that are what's considered undiagnosed, that literally medical professionals may not know what's going on or why they are what they are. And again, bringing that question up could be triggering. And again, thinking about why you're different or why you're like this, and then having no response, like it can be sad and frustrating. So, okay, enough with what not to do. Let's talk about what to do and how to address those concerns. Before I go into those tips or alternate ways to get to know someone with a physical disability, I just wanted to mention, quintessentially, you're asking for very personal information, and definitely this information is not required, or in no way the person is not obligated to give a response. So it's imperative to make sure that however these questions or conversation are phrased, that it's always the person is given an option to answer or not. And again, lastly, whatever information is shared should definitely be a token of gratitude should be expressed. Thank you for sharing that information. I appreciate it. Something along those lines. And I'll go into more details later in the video. Okay, let's now go into how to kind of get to know someone and probe a little bit deeper into the person with a physical disability. Number one, you are so brave, or you're so strong. You seem so strong or brave to me. I admire that so much about you. Again, that way you're acknowledging that you just admire this person, and the conversation can go from there. It's definitely you're starting the conversation with a positive, or at least a neutral statement, which is always a great thing. Number two, I'm going to use my name as an example. Number two, my name is Carla. What's your name? I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. Simple, normal introduction to meeting someone. And that's it. You can sort of start the conversation from there. Number three, is there anything I can help you with? Just in case you're concerned about the person, or the person is seemingly needing some assistance. That way you're offering anything you can do. Or you can ask, may I perform a blank task for you? For example, if you're in a grocery store, if you want to hand someone something, or if you're seeing someone trying to go through a door, you can offer to open the door. Or if the person's going across the street, you can offer to accompany them, and that's a cool way to sort of talk to someone too. Again, it's all about just trying to focus on the person and not the mobility aid at that point. Number four, that wheelchair is so technologically advanced. I'm amazed, or I'm so intrigued. Can you show me some functions on it? And this one in particular is for the person that it may be just interested in the wheelchair or the technology. And that's okay too. Some of these wheelchairs and other mobility aids are very technologically advanced and very awe-inspiring, and have little features and functions and buttons and colors. It is kind of exciting. I'm almost excited talking about it. But yes, so if that's your thing or that's what's intriguing, then definitely bring that up to the person. But again, you're phrasing it in a way where you don't really need that personal information about why they're in the chair. You're just asking about the chair. And you can always bring up, hey, I'm going to be a part of, let's say, the wheelchair. I'm going to be a part of the wheelchair community very soon. Or my loved one is going to be or is in the wheelchair community very soon. May we keep in touch? And this one is for the person that, as as just stated, either you're needing a wheelchair or your loved one may be needing a wheelchair or mobility aid. You see someone that really you're inspired by, wondering how they do what they do. Again, this is a non-confrontational but inquisitive way to keep in touch and to have that kind of foot in the door to said community that you or your loved one may be entering soon. And that's a wonderful way to build some type of friendship or acquaintance. In honorable mention, you may be thinking at this point, hey Carla, I'm just a talker. I like to talk. The question just may come out in conversation, or I don't always plan what I'm gonna say, and that is totally fine. And it definitely makes a lot of sense. So in that scenario, if you just happen to ask why the person is in the wheelchair, you can always proceed that question with, if that's okay with you, or if you don't mind talking about it. Again, most importantly, you're giving that person with the disability the option to either answer or not, which is really important. Like you're giving that person a choice. All right. And this is my opinion only. This is not gospel at all, but definitely a good way to approach a person with a physical disability to invoke a positive, amiable response to maybe get to know someone. And I have made a video on to help one with the disability how to answer said question, and it'll be linked above. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. We're almost at the end of the video. I appreciate any comments, concerns, or feedback very, very much. This is Courageous Carla. Stay tuned for the next video. Carpe diem the best way you can. Thank you so much. Goodbye.